I did my homework, I think, to the letter. I copy-pasted the question that you asked me to answer. So I'm going to speak first about my ocean robotics company. Then I speak about the perspective of an expatriate. And second, how we can create value for society through innovation. Okay. So maybe I'll give it a bit of context. So I'll go very, very fast. So I have about 12 minutes. So I start and going. So 71% of the Earth is covered with water. And actually, pretty much every breath you take has been created from the ocean. The oxygen you're breathing, life actually has evolved from the ocean. Every life we find in the universe actually is coming from the ocean as we know it today. So we've evolved from very simple things to being this. But today, 80% of the oceans have plastic, garbage in them. Every day we use 300 tons of water to cool down the nuclear power plant of Fukushima, the nuclear power plant, so it doesn't melt and keeps making more mess. Another example is that we've spilled 4.9 million barrels of oil spill during the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. So we are destroying where life is coming from. We are destroying the ocean extremely fast. And so I'm interested in developing technologies for the purpose of healing the ocean, exploring, understanding, and healing the oceans. So in 2010, when the BP oil spill started, I used to work at MIT, and I was in charge of a team to clean up the BP oil spill. Quickly after, I moved and I lived in the Gulf of Mexico for 2 years, where I operated, mostly with nonprofits, to help map the oil spill that was going on and help cleaning up. I've seen hundreds of people, men and women, going on the oil spill every day and risking their health and their life to clean it up, and only cleaning 3% of the oil that was there. So I started developing a new type of boat that would be wind-powered and that would be capturing the oil. And so I invented a new type of boat, which is a shape-shifting sailing robot. So it's the first robot in history that can change dynamically its shape. So basically, instead of having a centerboard and rudder, you can change the shape of the boat dynamically. Pretty much the result of 500 million years of evolution. This is how fish function. So we are quite confident in this technology. So a shape-shifting hull allows you to have more control about trajectory. It's more stable. It absorbs environmental noise, as in waves. It works very well in high wind condition as well as in low wind condition, and allows us to pull more payload. So if we want to drag an oil boom, then we can do that better with a regular sailing boat. And as an entrepreneur, with my team, we kept inventing and trying new things. So here you can see this is the first shape-shifting, but also the first modular sailboat. We are going to build boats the same way we're building trains. We can actually add modules and have different functionality within different modules of the boat. And better than this, we're going to be able to do this with extremely low energy. So this is a machine that is 6.5 meters, but uses the same amount of energy as a mobile phone to control, because the only thing we need to control are the front wheels. So we can make a very, very large machine move with almost no energy. So if you think about Hong Kong being one of the platforms for logistics and having these large ships that uses, for example, an average of 1,100 gallons per hour of bunker fuel, then think about what we could do if we had shape-shifting boats that were wind-powered, pretty much operating for free. So all the technology I just showed to you are some of the technology we develop, and they're all open source. Means that we actually invite people to copy us, use, modify, and distribute our technology. This is the future. We're not seeing our value in trying to capture a market, but how we distribute the technology and make it available for everyone. Also because we believe that if a technology is good, it should be made available for everyone to solve big environmental issues. The market is big enough, 71% of the ocean. 90% of the world trade travels by the ocean. So I'll give you an example. One ship, I was in a ship 2 weeks ago in the Caribbean, consumed 1,100 gallons per hour of bunker fuel. Bunker fuel has 2,000 times the amount of sulfur in it. Produces as much air pollution. One ship produces, the very, very large ship produces as much air pollution in a year as 50 million cars. 15 of the world's largest ships produce as much air pollution as all the cars in the world, 670 million cars. If we can change some of these industries just a little bit, we can have a really big impact on the climate, for example. So we will keep building better and better ships. That's what we're going to be doing in the next few years. So we are going to be building, thanks to the investment of one of the co-founders of Skype, larger shape-shifting boats to see if our technology is really valid and how how big we can scale it. So, my experience as an expatriate in Hong Kong and as part of the ecosystem. So my story is I'm building boats. I was looking for the best place to develop intelligent IoT boats. And so I need electronics, and I need the ocean, and I need to be able to export them very fast. And so it seems very obvious that Hong Kong has all of this in a very big way. We are very close to Shenzhen, world capital of electronics. We have potential investments which are pretty much free of taxes. It's very fast to export things. The legal system, everything permits for hardware startups to flourish. So I decided to move here 2.5 years ago. And my story is that the first day I bought a mobile phone. The second day, I registered a company. The third day, I opened a bank account. And after a week, I found an old farm in Yuen Long that I repurposed into a robotics laboratory. But it took me 4 months to actually repair it and turn it a chicken farm into a robotics laboratory. Then I looked into, then we got investment. And we're looking, how can we make our bigger boats? And so we looked, of course, in Science and Technology Park, but then we would have to wait a couple of months before we could get in. We would have to have a payroll, which we didn't have because we couldn't pay people on a regular basis. We're a startup. So we look into the co-working space, but then in the co-working space, there's no way I could use any tool. I use resin, I use fiberglass, epoxy resin. It's smelly, it's dusty, it makes a lot of noise. So there was nowhere for me to work. So I looked into the hackerspace, but there was only one hackerspace in Hong Kong back then called the Dim Sum Lab, which was a tiny apartment size. So we decided that we should look into the legacy of Hong Kong culture. Hong Kong used to be an amazing industrial hub just maybe 20 years ago. And so we found an old factory that used to deal with metal pieces and metal assembly. And we thought, how about we upgrade Hong Kong industrial infrastructure? Upgrade a metal factory into a robotics factory, a textile into a wearable technology, and appliances into Internet of Things. All this infrastructure already exists, and we've been losing Hong Kong's capacity to Shenzhen, to Guangzhou, to all these other places, instead of upgrading this infrastructure. So I looked around me and I asked everybody, what do you need? So people who could not work in co-working space, could not work in government-backed structure, they all need tool, space, and community. And so we found this industrial space in Yau Tong. So it's one station away from the Blue Line, very convenient. It's also 45 minutes by bus to Shenzhen because it's an industrial area. And then we transformed this old industrial building with the help of the community. So we asked on Facebook and on Twitter, how do you want the space to be designed? How big do you want the workshop to be? What machines do you want? How do you want it to operate? And we designed a space that has a wood shop, a metal shop, 3D printer, laser cutter, CNC milling machine, a small chemistry lab, a small optics lab, a small biology lab, sewing machines, electronics, obviously. And that will have the tools in the community so that anybody, instead of spending many months when they arrive in Hong Kong, they could just arrive, and the day they arrive, they could start operating. So this is the space we have now. This was our pre-launch, before our pre-launch, a couple of months ago. 250 people came. We have a very well-equipped tool shop that anybody can walk in and use. And this is our team, very proud of working with those people. And so we offer mostly access to two things, mostly for hardware entrepreneurs, and also we do a lot of education projects. I will explain very, very briefly afterwards. And so how do we create value for business with innovation in the context of Hong Kong? Well, you're saying that like entrepreneurs, they would have to act as if they have nothing to lose. But I feel it's the opposite. I feel like I have everything to lose. For example, for the environment, like if we lose the ocean, we have pretty much no future, no oxygen, there's no life. So how do we address this? So how can an entrepreneur have social impact? So for example, we're teaching kids how to build 3D printers from discarded DVD drives. E-waste. The stuff that we chuck out of our offices, we get them, and we get the kids to open them, take the motors out, and build their own 3D printers with them. They learn that waste isn't waste, it's gold. And you can make amazing things with this. We can make tools that build more stuff. We are working with the older elderly. We taught them 2 weeks ago how to use the laser cutter, and now they're cutting presents for their grandkids for Christmas. We're working with the refugee population. We have thousands of refugees in Hong Kong. They're not allowed to work. They're not allowed to volunteer. They can only be trained. How do you prepare this great number of people to actually be part of the working force and be part of this innovation economy that we're trying to create. Be inclusive and take the best talent and the hardest working people who have the least resource to be part of this future of Hong Kong. This kid is 17 years old. He's applying for engineering school, and he has grandparents that have mobility issues. So he took the cheapest wheelchair he could find, the cheapest folding bike, and the cheapest electric bicycle motor, and he transformed his wheelchair into an electric vehicle in 3 days. We're teaching kids here how to do the basic of power tools and electronics with Arduino, wireless communication with a Bluetooth chip and Android development, and we built this wind-powered machine. So they're also aware that wind-powered could be used for energy transportation. How can we have entrepreneur and environmental impact? So the boats I'm developing could have a huge impact on the shipping industry, for example. And so we do a lot of education projects. So we transformed. So this is the beach in Hong Kong. I have kids that I teach, and they collected the plastic, but many kids do that. But how can we go further than this? 80% of the oceans have plastic, but big companies say that they will only collect plastic if they can make money out of it, which is, to me, crazy, but that's the reality of the world we live in now. The way we've been studying plastic in the ocean for the 30 past years has been to collect plastic in those nets, and looking at each plastic pieces under a microscope, analyzing and plotting that on a map. It's expensive, slow, and dangerous. So we transformed a small Hong Kong classroom into an innovation space, into a maker space. We took the plastic and break it down the size you find in the ocean, and hacked a webcam, an LED table lamp, and turned this into a sensor that we mounted on a remote control toy boat. Yeah. The toy boat, when it moves through the water, captures the video of the plastic stream that is in there. And the computer on board, which costs $25, it's a Raspberry Pi, processes these images to measure the size of each piece of plastic. So we can have a real-time measurement of the plastic in the ocean, so we can make what is waste a resource. So this project is, again, open source and documented on the website for inventors called Instructable. So anyone can improve and build their own industry on top of this. We won't solve this problem alone. Another problem, maybe I'll pass those ones, but we are doing the same with oil spill, developing sensors for oil spill, which are spectrometers. We did the same in Fukushima. We measure radioactivity on the ocean floor with kids, and we made a map of the radioactivity that is now pouring from Fukushima nuclear power plant into the Pacific Ocean. So we have made instruments to measure this radioactivity. So we've been to Fukushima every year since the accident. But I'll pass this to talk about the other things. So how do we do advanced research? In a lab like we have now, we actually have quite simple tools that maybe you can find in some garage. But we invented, this is Sean Frayne, a colleague from MIT. He invented a wind turbine that doesn't spin, but vibrates. We make energy from a vibrating membrane. He made a machine that can print solar panels. So instead of having to go into a big factory, you can actually print solar panels on demand at the size and spec that you want. Instead of 3D printing objects out of plastic, how do you 3D print an image? So this is the first 3D printed image. It's called the Looking Glass. And it's built and assembled in MakerBay. How do you make even commercial works that also make sense? So this is a packaging product that is reinflatable. So you can inflate it, so it doesn't take warehouse space, but you can deflate it. And it's biodegradable. So it's not going to clutter a landfill or end up in the ocean. And we just invented a few weeks ago this new toy, which is a low-cost magnet construction set that we launched for beta testing at the Maker Fair 2 days ago. And it was hugely successful. We had more than 200 people asking us how much this cost. We haven't even looked into how we can produce them. And 3 weeks ago, we had this successful campaign as well on Indiegogo, $50,000 for building a portable power bank. So what I'm showing to you is that innovation that has social, environmental impact can be commercially viable and be innovative. And so what we're trying to do is to create a social enterprise that supports the ecosystem and that allows any local or international entrepreneur to come in Hong Kong, and the day they arrive, they can start operating. This is the future of Hong Kong. Now the biggest industry are finance and tourism and insurance and so on. But even the government recognized that the future of Hong Kong's economy is in innovation and the creative industry. And the makerspace is exactly at this intersection of the creative industry and technology. That's exactly where we are. So I'm looking forward to continue the discussion with you. and let's create a lot of innovation for social and environmental impact. Thanks very much.